Attack on Titan. In this universe, humans lived inside three enormous walls: the Wall Maria, Wall Rose, and Wall Cena. The purpose of these walls is to protect them from creatures known as Titans. These Titans are giant monsters with human-like appearance, and they seem to only care about one thing: to breach into the walls and eat people. More specifically, they target Eldians, also known as the subjects of Ymir. But we'll get into that later. Here's the thing: Titans aren't what they seem. The truth about their real identity is way darker than anyone inside the walls could have imagined. And when you get to the manga's ending, well, let's just say it's still a hot debate. So hold on tight, because starting with Attack on Titan, we're driving into some of the darkest universes in anime. And hey, maybe 80% of you won't agree with some picks on this list, but let me show you what I found in just a few minutes. You see, Titans aren't just monsters. They're real people. More specifically, they're Eldians, the same race as Eren and the people inside the walls. For years, the Marlians have been turning Eldians into Titans and sending them to Eldia, while the people inside the walls remain clueless about the truth. Everything changes when a colossal Titan suddenly appears and destroys Wall Maria. That Titan, later revealed to be Bertold, kicks off the chaos. In the middle of it all, Eren watches his mother get eaten, and this fills his heart with a burning desire for revenge. He wants to exterminate every Titan in existence. Determined to fight back, Eren, Mikasa, Armin, and a group of other memorable characters, including a certain potato-loving girl, enlist in the military. Most of them join the Survey Corps, the division responsible for fighting Titans and exploring the world beyond the walls. Of course, including the uncovering of the truth about the Titans' true existence. There are also Titan shifters, people who can turn into Titans at will and switch back to their human form anytime. There are 9 different types of Titan powers, like the Armor Titan, Warhammer Titan, Jaw Titan, Attack Titan, and more. But the most powerful of them all is the Founding Titan. It can turn Eldians into Titans, control other Titans, and even change Eldians' memories and bodies, but only if the current Founding Titan has royal blood or is in contact with someone who does. Titan powers don't just stay with one person forever. If a subject of Ymir eats a Titan shifter, they inherit the power. That's why there have been many Titan shifters throughout history. Eren's Founding Titan form is even called the Doomsday Titan, and for a good reason. That's because Eren's goal is straight up mass genocide. Now, he wants to erase everyone outside the walls. He undoes the hardening on the colossal Titans inside Parade's walls and unleashes them to stomp across the world in an event known as the Rumbling. I mean, just picture this. You're Halil or Ramzi, and you've finally gotten your lifetime savings together. But guess what? None of that matters, because you and everyone around you are nothing but ants to the colossal Titans. At this point, Titan shifters and soldiers are fighting each other, trying to stand by their own goals and beliefs. No one is safe. Anyone can die. No discrimination. Sure, in the end, a temporary peace was reached. The rumbling was stopped, Eren was taken down, and Titans vanished. But even then, civilization still collapsed, and wars never really stopped. It's just how it goes. Death Note. Bear with me for a moment and imagine this. You're watching a regular program on TV when, out of nowhere, it cuts to a live broadcast from the International Criminal Police Organization. The man on screen introduces himself as Lind L. Taylor, a world-famous detective known as L. He's talking about a mysterious killer hiding somewhere in your country, so naturally, you pay attention. But then, he suddenly dies of a heart attack, live on air. This is Death Note, a world where humans get to play the role of a death god. And for the real death gods, this is just pure entertainment. Light Yagami, our main character, wants to become the god of a new world, and that tells you everything about him. One day, Light stumbles upon a strange notebook while heading home. He's bored out of his mind, so when he sees it fall from the sky, he checks it out after school. This is the Death Note, a notebook that kills anyone whose name is written in it. It was dropped by a Shinigami named Ryuk, who just wanted to see what would happen if a human got their hands on it. For Light and his completely messed up sense of justice, this is the perfect chance to clean up the world. He takes on the identity of Kira and goes all in, writing down criminals' names left and right. He can even decide when and how they die, but if he doesn't specify, they just drop dead from a heart attack. But this mysterious string of deaths catches the attention of the police and, most importantly, the real L, the legendary detective. You see, even though it's just a notebook, its pages never run out, no matter how many names Light writes. Light's goal is to create a world of good, honest people. But if the Death Note lands in the wrong hands, then whoever gets it can straight up assassinate anyone, innocent or not. Imagine a world filled with endless battles, bloodshed, and pure chaos. That's Berserk, a dark and brutal universe where Guts, a lone mercenary with a giant sword, fights to survive. But he's not your usual hero. He's not some idealistic guy with a shining sense of justice. No, Guts is tough, battle-scarred, and trusts no one. Life has taught him that relying on others only leads to pain. Guts' story starts in the worst way possible. Born from the corpse of his mother and raised by mercenaries, his childhood is a nightmare. His adoptive father, Gambino, was abusive, and Guts was eventually forced to kill him in self-defense. From then on, he wandered the land as a swordsman, fighting wherever he could to survive. This is how he eventually became known as the Black Swordsman. And no, not that dual-wielding beta tester who got stuck in a game. Guts doesn't trust anyone. But as his journey goes on, he slowly learns to open up to his comrades again. Then, there are the Apostles. Once human, they are now monstrous beings who traded their humanity for power. When someone reaches their lowest, most desperate moment, they can activate a strange artifact called a Beherit, summoning the God Hand. These demonic overlords make them an offer, unimaginable strength in exchange for sacrificing something they love. If they accept, they become an apostle, throwing away whatever humanity they had left. Speaking of the God Hand, they're the real masterminds behind everything. These guys are basically demons running the whole system and serving the idea of evil, ruling over apostles, and shaping destiny itself. They were once all human, but during the eclipse, a horrifying event that happens every 216 years, they sacrificed something deeply important to ascend. And yeah, the world of Berserk is straight up nightmare fuel. Aside from apostles, you've got pseudo-apostles, grotesque monsters created under an apostle's influence. Think of them as mindless minions. As for Guts, he's got one goal: get revenge on Griffith and the God Hand for what they did during the eclipse. He's drowning in rage and pain, cutting down anything in his path to avoid dealing with his trauma. But at the same time, he fights to protect the people he cares about, especially Casca, hoping to find a way to heal her and himself. Now, this might be another controversial pick, but if Final Destination were an anime, this would be it. Another is a horror anime from 2012 that throws you straight into a mystery-filled gruesome nightmare. The story follows Mei Misaki, Koichi Sakakibara, and their classmates who get caught up in something truly horrifying. It all starts back in 1972 when Misaki, a top student from Yomiyama North Middle School's Class 3-3, who, spoiler alert, is a different Misaki from the protagonist, suddenly died partway through the school year. But instead of accepting reality, the students pretended Misaki was still alive. They even kept his desk in place and brought it to the graduation ceremony. And here's where things get seriously creepy. When the class took their graduation photo, Misaki was there, clear as day, even though he was already dead. And just like that, a curse was born. By denying Misaki's death, the class unknowingly invited the dead back into their classroom. Every year, one extra person, someone who's already dead, joins Class 3-3, and the deaths start rolling in. Students and their family members die in freak accidents, and there's no way to stop it unless the class figures out who the dead person is and sends them back to the afterlife. To stop the deaths, Class 3-3 came up with a countermeasure: treat one student as if they don't exist. If everyone acts like that person is dead, the curse might be avoided. Fast forward to 1998, and that unlucky person is Mei Misaki. Her classmates ignore her completely, and she has no choice but to go along with it. The thing is, Mei can actually see who the dead person is. Behind her eye patch is a doll eye that lets her see death itself. The problem is that Koichi Sakakibara, the new transfer student, knows nothing about the curse. He talks to Mei and breaks the class's countermeasure. Everyone begins to believe that with this, Koichi has unleashed the full force of the curse. The deaths start piling up, and paranoia takes over. With no way to prove who the extra is, students start suspecting and even attacking each other. When it comes to brutal deaths, another does not hold back. If you're even remotely related to Class 33, you're in danger of dying in the most gruesome way possible. Imagine being crushed by a collapsing elevator, sliced to pieces by yacht propellers, or stabbed straight through the eye by an umbrella. Yeah, this anime does not mess around. Real quick, before we dive into the next dark universe, one I'm sure you're all too familiar with, if you're enjoying the video so far, make sure to stick around until the end and hit that like and subscribe button. Alright, no turning back now. Time to dive back in. Tokyo Ghoul. In an alternate Tokyo, there are creatures called ghouls hiding among humans. They look normal, but they only survive by eating human flesh. Ghouls have superhuman strength, speed, insane healing abilities, and a special predatory organ called a kagune that they use as a weapon. Oh, and human food? Completely useless to them. No matter how hard they try, they can't digest it. They'll just throw it right back up. At first, Kaneki-kin was just an ordinary guy. That is until he got tricked by Rize Kamishiro, a ghoul in disguise. And not just any ghoul, she's the Binge Eater, a name that strikes fear into the hearts of ghouls across Tokyo. After barely surviving what's now called the Steel Beam Incident, Kaneki went under a Kakuho transplant surgery where Rize's organs were implanted into him, turning him into a one-eyed ghoul. And that was just the beginning of his descent into insanity, suffering, and pure chaos. Kaneki lost people he cared about, suffered through brutal battles, and even lost his memories, becoming someone else entirely. At one point, he turned into Heisei Sasaki, a ghoul investigator working under the CCG as the leader of the Quink Squad. But even with his new identity, his pain and suffering never stopped. He was constantly forced to fight, sometimes even against those he once loved. And if ghouls weren't bad enough, Tokyo was about to face something way worse: the Dragon War. This disaster was caused by Kichimura Washu, better known as Furuta. and it led to Kaneki transforming into a dragon, a gigantic, uncontrollable Kakuja that wiped out huge parts of Tokyo. Luckily, the CCG and his allies from GOAT managed to extract him, but the damage was already done. Even after the dragon was stopped, its remnants continued to poison the city, releasing toxins deadly to both humans and ghouls. What's more, terrifying humanoid creatures called dragon orphans emerged, devouring anything in sight. Tokyo had never been darker or more dangerous. Psychopaths is set in a futuristic Japan ruled by the Sybil system, a crazy advanced biomechatronic network that's always scanning people's mental states. This whole thing is called a Psychopaths, and it has two key parts. A crime coefficient, which tells you how likely someone is to commit a crime, and a color-coded hue, which reflects their mental state. You see, that number controls everything. It decides if you get to live freely, stay under constant watch, get locked up, or, well, not live at all. Once someone's crime coefficient hits 100, the Public Safety Bureau, also known as MWPSB, gets on their case. The MWPSB's Criminal Investigation Department is split into inspectors and enforcers. Inspectors are the big shots. They analyze cases and keep things in check. Enforcers, though? They're already classified as latent criminals. Their crime coefficient is too high, so the only reason they're not locked up is because the system lets them work under inspectors. Whether you're an inspector or enforcer, you get access to a Dominator, a crazy high-tech gun that only fires if the Sybil system says so. If the target's crime coefficient isn't high enough, the gun won't even work. There are a bunch of different seasons and story arcs in Psychopaths, sometimes with new protagonists. But if there's one thing you can count on, it's that the series just keeps getting darker and darker. We're talking about heavy themes like justice, government control, the dark side of technology, and even childhood trauma, slavery, violent crimes, and some really messed up stuff. The Sybil system itself is flawed. It's biased, lacks any real moral compass, and doesn't give a single care about human emotions or gray areas in morality. For example, you can be completely innocent but still labeled a criminal just because you're super stressed out. Meanwhile, actual psychopaths who can keep their emotions in check can bypass the system entirely. If the Sybil system doesn't even see them as a threat, Dominators won't even fire. These people are called criminally asymptomatic. They can do whatever crimes they want, and the Sybil system still gives them a low crime coefficient. A perfect example is Shogo Makishima. The guy was a straight-up psycho, but because the system couldn't detect him, he got to do whatever he wanted. Parasite the Maxim. In this dark universe, Earth is secretly invaded by mysterious creatures called parasites. These worm-like organisms are humanity's neutralizers, and they take over human bodies by burrowing into their brains, usually by crawling in through the ears or nose. Once they're in control, they can shapeshift the host's body parts into deadly weapons like blades or tentacles, which they use to hunt and eat humans. Nobody knows where these things even came from, but their mysterious hunts became infamous in the neighborhood as the mincemeat murders. At first, people thought some kind of cult was behind it, but after a parasite named Hideo Shimada basically exposed it, the truth finally came out. Even though parasites are highly intelligent, they don't have human emotions. They struggle to blend in with people because they don't fully understand human behavior. To them, humans are just food, similar to how ghouls see people in Tokyo Ghoul. However, these parasites are the real geniuses of adaptability. Once people started realizing what was going on, parasites stopped leaving bodies out in the open. Some even ate less or stayed low-key until things cooled down. Parasites don't actually need to eat humans to survive. They can live on a regular diet as long as it keeps their host body alive. In fact, parasites and female hosts can even get pregnant and give birth to normal human children, like Reiko Tamura's case. The main protagonist is Shinichi Izumi, a regular high school student whose life gets completely flipped when a parasite tries to take over his body but screws up. Instead of reaching his brain, the creature later named Miki ends up fusing with his right hand. That means Shinichi stays human, but now has a talking, shape-shifting alien living in his hand rent-free. The problem is that parasites like Miki are seen as freaks by their own kind, especially the ones that still eat humans. That means Shinichi and Miki quickly become targets. The only real weakness these creatures have is that they depend on their host's body. If a parasite is separated from its host, it gets weaker and will die if it can't find a new body fast enough. They're also vulnerable to fire, toxins, and diseases. What's really messed up is that some parasites can control other parasites. Case in point, Goto and Miki. If you ever run into one, your best bet is to run or hide fast. Well, that is if you can. Doro. This story takes place during Japan's Sengoku period, a brutal era full of wars, famine, demons, and suffering. Basically, if you can name something awful, it probably exists in this world. In this universe, there's a samurai lord named Daigo Kagemitsu, and he's got a big problem. You see, his land is falling out of prosperity, and he desperately wants to bring it back, no matter what it takes. So what does he do? Kagemitsu makes a deal with 12 powerful demons, or 48 demons in the 1969 version. In exchange for the power to rule the world, he promises them anything they desire that belongs to him. The demons accept the offer, and their first demand is his firstborn son, Hyakimaru. When Hyakimaru was born, he's severely deformed and missing tons of body parts, all claimed by the demons. But here's where Kagemitsu messed up. Instead of ending the baby's life himself, he leaves Hyakimaru with a midwife and assumes he won't survive. But Hyakimaru does survive. He's found by Jukai, a skilled doctor who specializes in prosthetics. Using his craft, Jukai gives Hyakimaru artificial limbs and organs, allowing him to function despite his missing body parts. Hyakimaru develops heightened senses and the ability to see the souls of both humans and demons. And he's not about to let the demons get away with stealing from him. His mission is to hunt them down and take back what's his, one body part at a time. As he becomes stronger, Hyakimaru outmatches Kagemitsu, his army, and even the 12 demons. When the 12th demon falls, Kagemitsu finally pays the price for his pact. Bleeding out from the side effects of the deal, he offers his neck to Hyakimaru, letting his son end him through seppuku. But in the end, Hyakimaru refused to do it. But even without demons in the mix, this world is unforgiving. The Sengoku period was a time of political chaos, endless wars, and widespread suffering. Doro doesn't hold back from showing just how brutal life is, whether it's starvation, extreme poverty, or even the harsh reality of Mio's secret job. Simply put, life is hell in this world, and for Hyakimaru, it's even worse. The Promised Neverland is an anime where food is everything, but not in the way you'd hope. Instead of cooking up fancy meals like in Food Wars, the food here is people. Yes, these guys. This world goes way back to a time when humans and demons were constantly at war. The fighting only stopped when a man named Julius Ratchery made a deal called the Promise. It was simple. Humans wouldn't hunt demons, and demons wouldn't hunt humans. To make sure of this, the world was split in two. One side for humans, the other for demons. Sounds fair, right? Not really. Some humans were left behind in the demon world, and they weren't just prisoners. They were turned into livestock, bred and raised just to be eaten. The demons created farms to raise human-like cattle, and Gracefield House was one of the best, a premium farm designed to produce top-quality human meat. On the surface, it looked like a warm and loving orphanage where kids laughed, played, and grew up under the care of their mama. But that was just a well-crafted lie. The truth is, every child in Gracefield was a product. They were groomed, tested, and prepped for slaughter. The smarter the kid, the better they tasted, so their intelligence was trained through exams. Even the people they called mamas and sisters are fake. All of them are in it. And when a child reached a certain age, they got adopted, or so they were told. On paper, it sounded great. A real home, a real family. Saying goodbye to their friends at the orphanage is the only sad thing. In reality, they were being sent straight to the demons' dinner tables. Gracefield House was never an orphanage. It was a farm designed to produce top-tier demon food. The orphans weren't kids. They were cattle children, raised to sit obediently on a demon's plate. I mean, just imagine, you might get shipped out tomorrow. If you're one of the oh-so-fortunate orphans, you get equipped with a false birthday and an identification number. You also get a free tracking device secretly located at the back of your left ear to make sure you can't escape. Even if you somehow manage to escape, the demon world isn't about to let you off easy. It's a terrifying place, filled with wild plant life and monstrous life forms where all the premium and factory farms are located. You'll find things like bloodsucker trees that feed on human and animal life, large insects, demonic horses, and don't forget about the demon villages where demons are constantly out for meat. And not just any meat, premium quality ones to be exact. Demons who consume high quality human meat keep their intelligence and humanoid forms. But those who don't get that luxury end up degenerating into mindless beasts. Luckily, there are a few demons who don't follow the brutal system. Demons like Mujika and Sanju have a special ability that lets them keep their intelligence without eating humans. These evil-blooded demons were a huge threat to the demon elite though, so they almost got wiped out. Why? Because they could give other demons their blood and it could keep a demon from losing their mind. Neon Genesis Evangelion. The year is 2015. Humanity is on the edge of extinction. 15 years ago, a global disaster called Second Impact wiped out half of the world's population. It completely changed the Earth's climate, caused huge tsunamis, messed with the world's weather, created constant political chaos, started nuclear wars, and put the global economy in serious distress. Either way, the climate collapsed and society barely managed to survive. And now, colossal, otherworldly creatures called angels have arrived. And they all have one goal: total annihilation. The reality is that the Second Impact is actually the result of contact with an experimentation on the first angels, Adam. And they paid the price for it. For humanity, Tokyo 3 is the last line of defense. It's a fortress city built specifically to fight these invaders. The city is defended by numerous missile buildings around it, while rows of machine gun cable cars are stationed in the outskirts. And missile batteries are built on the side of the mountains. But the real action is happening deep underground. Nerve, a top secret military group that's basically humanity's last shot. They built these insane biomechanical machines called Evangelions, part robot, part living thing. Normal weapons don't do anything against angels, but these can throw hands. Teenagers are chosen as the pilots because they have a special connection to the Evangelions. One of these unlucky kids is Shinji Ikari, and this guy is not trying to be a hero or anything. He's just a teenage kid who got ditched by his dad years ago. Now, out of nowhere, his old man, who just so happens to be Nerve's stone cold commander, calls him up with an order: get in the robot or get out. Shinji freezes. He's not built for this. But there's no time for second thoughts. A bleeding, injured girl named Rei Ayanami is wheeled in. She's barely able to stand, yet she's ordered to get into the Evangelion and fight. That's when it clicks. He can't just sit there. So he does it. He gets in the EVA. The war continues and more pilots are eventually chosen. And these pilots have their own demons. Fear, trauma, abandonment, you name it. Neon Genesis Evangelion is truly dark, not just the universe they live in, but also because it explores the deepest parts of a human psychology. Madness, depression, identity crisis. It's all there. What's worse, humanity's living a lie. Nerve is hiding way too much. Behind the scenes, a shadowy group called Zele is pulling the strings. They have a plan called the Human Instrumentality Project, a way to merge all human souls into one, erasing pain and loneliness forever. Except it also erases individuality. No more you or me, just one existence. It will also force the evolution of humanity by bringing about the third impact. But I won't drag this out. Anime has plenty of brutal words, whether physically or psychologically, and this is just part 1 of our series on anime's darkest universes. Which one do you think is the darkest? Drop a comment down below and let me know which anime should be in part 2.